Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Looks like sounds like we're going okay. Bill, not sure. Let's check here if you can hear me real quick. Okay, you can. Great. So let's do the trade review. This is the trade review for Monday. Let's see, what was the date today? January 7th. Let me get this changed up just a hair here. Here we go. Let's get rid of that. This. And we will stretch this out. There we go. And there we have it. So here's today's trading. And so where I want to start is, first of all, the type of day that we had. Obviously, we came into the day recognizing that we had pretty big news coming out of Greece. Secondly, that we had the potential for both open drive higher or open drive lower. And the plan out of the gate was to skip the first 30 minutes, let the market kind of stretch itself out, and then see where we were from there. Now, a couple of things occurred. First of all, we have a checklist to go through in the morning to figure out whether the market is going higher or whether the market is going lower. The first one is, are we able to attain half gap? And clearly we were able to get half gap right here. The next question that comes to mind almost immediately is, are we able to get gap fill? Gap fill also coincided with this, obviously the note said, the 2070, below 2070 keeps us in the range that we're currently in, which is approximately 2045 to 2070. Above 2070, if we can close above that 2070, 2075 level, that opens the door to push us up to back towards 2110. So one of the things that we're looking for in addition to half gap and gap fill is the size of the rotation. So we opened up, clearly we got open drive higher, we came right up to Globex high and we rejected out of Globex high. And interestingly enough, we also rejected from the open gap first time in. So I want to open this up and show it a little bit more clearly so that you can make the distinction. We opened up outside of the Keltner bands, number one, which is one of the indications that we'd use not to take a trade till we were back inside the Keltner band. Number two, we opened up very close to the open gap. There was less than 3 points rotation between the open and the open gap, and I said that would pretty much negate the open gap for me right out of the gate. What did throw me a little bit this morning, and let me erase this really quickly. Okay, so what did negate it is when we first opened up, when we rotated up to 2059 and a quarter, and you can see at 2059 and a quarter, we actually rejected, and I actually did take a trade. I believe at 2059, 2058 and 3/4, I forget exactly where my fill was, but I did take a trade here, and my objective was to try to push and come back and either give 2046 and a half a test to the downside, or if we could, come to the overnight lows. Hold on one second here. See if I can get to this. Or if we could even push to the overnight Globex lows at 2033.98. So think about this from the overnight. The overnight low came in at 2034, 2033.98. I'm tired. Came in at 2034, right? So by the time we opened, we've already had a 20-point rotation up off of the lows. And then we just continued that rotation, believe it or not, for another 20. This is 40 points off of last night's swing low. We can see that here if we look. Let's pull this in. I do not know where this chart took off on me, but we will bring it right back. There we go. So, guys, I'm going to have to take this for just 1 second. I apologize. Give me just 1 sec. Okay, there we go. So, if we look overnight here, let's compact this even more. So here's the open from yesterday evening, right here. We were trending up all the way overnight. Right, here's our U.S. Open, approximately right here at 2053. The Globex high was right here. And as you can see, we set a series of higher lows all the way through here. And as a matter of fact, this 2050, I guess I had spotted it. I normally do not work off of a 24-hour chart, but that came in pretty damn cleanly. Let's see here. Let's erase all this. And we can see this, come in like this. And we can see we just shot past this afternoon before getting a large reversal back to the upside, right? That being said, let's go back to the 24 hours. Let's go back to the daily. I primarily work off the RTH. And if we look at the RTH, one of the things, okay, so go through the list again. Size of the rotation is half gap, nailed. The other thing that I pointed out early on was NQ. And NQ, out of the gate, was pushing pretty hard, right? We opened up, we immediately pushed a Globex high. Let's open this up and look very carefully as well at what the behavior pattern was there. Okay, so we open up, we push, we reject off the 4,400. We come to Globex high, push a little bit above it, reject there again. Again, this is in the first 10 minutes. After the first 15 minutes, we're trading above Wednesday's low and above Globex high. This is very different from the picture that NQ has been providing over the last couple of days, where it's been leading us to the downside. And I said as much, hey, NQ is leading us higher. That's a sign of strength. So one of the areas of frustration, I know for me, and I know it has to be for other traders, is reading the tea leaves, right? When does a trade work? When does it not work? So we had strength in NQ. We had NQ trading above Globex high. We had ES trailing, but that's okay because ES can trail. There's nothing wrong with ES trailing. It happens all the time. If we look at ES, it got stuck underneath Globex high. Obviously, NQ had traded well above Globex high at this point. Finally pops over, backside tests. Now, this short, in my eyes, made sense, right? Even though I did not have, and I mentioned some things that were cautioned there. I have a swing indicator, and it was not indicating that we were in a swing short position. Secondly, the time that it was taking, if you notice from the time that we hit 2059 and a quarter, this is 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes until we finally broke above Globex high. And then despite the fact that my jaw was dropped a little bit, we did go ahead and march out. We had econ right here at 9 a.m. We were just sideways till that. And then we went ahead and rotated up another 10 points in short order. Now, there's two things about this. We took a very small stop here at this 2059 and a quarter. And then the other thing that was very important as we're going through the day was that I had mentioned at 2070, it is very, very difficult to get more than a 20-point rotation to the upside. Now, here's, I want to point something out. You can, as a trader, recognize that you're in a good general area and still not have the setup that you are looking for to put the risk on, right? In my eyes, looking back, it's pretty obvious where you go, oh, I went to 2070. It's obvious that we were going to roll back down to whatever, 2060, right? But for me, it's not so obvious. We've already made a stretch of 40 points from the overnight lows, right? So that's well beyond, if you look at an average 24-hour range, that's well beyond what we get for an average. So when I'm sitting here looking, I've got no swing short set up. I've got nothing here. It's just pretty much going straight up. And even more importantly, when we look at a shorter time frame, the shorter time frame tells me that there are little to no counter rotations. I'm going to show you a, if I can find it quickly enough. I'm going to pick up my 12-tick PNF chart, if I can find it. Okay, and then let's make this is, here we go. I want to pull this up here, push this down. I see what the problem is. Here we go. So, okay. So what this demonstrates here is this is a 12-tick PNF chart, and all that I'm using this for is to show me a new bar cannot be formed on a 12-tick PNF chart until we get at least 13 ticks, which is just over 3 points of counter rotation. And I went over in the morning, why do I not want to take a trade if I'm not getting 3 points of counter rotation? It's very simple. The average rotation in the S&P 500 is 4.25 to 4 3/4. Right? My target, my initial target on most of my trades is 2 points. Why does it 2 points? 2 points is less than 50% of 4.25 to 4 3/4. I know that I have very high odds of hitting that trade. Right? Now, if I am not getting a 3-point rotation, I have almost zero odds of what that means is in order to get a 2-point rotation, I have to hit that trade perfectly and get the perfect counter rotation. So on this particular date, if we look, here's the open, right? And from the open, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. By 8:45, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points of 3-point counter rotations. That's pretty good, right? You're thinking, okay, we're doing well. This is right here when we move right up to the 10 points. And you can see from the 10 points, we actually did rotate down that 3 points. But then all of a sudden, we get in. Wow, this is totally locked up on me. Hold on one second. There we go. And this bar starts at basically at 9 a.m. And we go from 9 a.m. all the way over to 9:51, almost an entire hour. And what this bar tells me is there are no counter rotations in this entire period. And additionally, from 9:51 to 10:40, again, 45 minutes, and there was only one 3-point rotation in that entire time, right? And then if we look, even carrying this concept on through the whole of the day, okay, so why is that important? First of all, it means that whatever trade location I pick, I have to nail it perfectly, because I'm not going to be, if I'm wrong, even by a little bit, I'm not going to be able to get a scale off. And if I'm using a reasonable stop, it means that I'm going to get stopped, right? So the day started off pretty good, and then it died very quickly right in here, right? Additionally, if we look here, this down bar lasted from 11:35 all the way over to 1:11. That means that we went through an entire 11:35, 12:35, almost an hour and 40 minutes where we could not get a 3-point counter rotation. So this is when I go to covering the 3 C's. There's clarity, commitment, and composure, right? So the clarity is not just recognizing, hey, we've got a good rotation to this area. It's also recognizing, is the environment such that even if I have the right location, am I going to be able to get my trade off? In this environment over here, the first 30 minutes, as it turns out, yeah, if you got your key locations, first time into Globex high, so on and so forth, the open gap, yes, you were able to get your 2-point rotations. But then all of a sudden 9 o'clock got here, and those rotations disappeared. And really, you can see them slowing down dramatically. It went from 9:40 to 9:54. There was 15 minutes with no 3-point counter rotations. Then we had one tiny 3-point counter rotation right in front of Econ at 9 a.m. And then it completely died from that point, right? So the first thing it tells me is when I'm up here, yes, I may have had good trade location, but I'm not going to make the assumption. I've already come up all the way from overnight lows where we opened in Asia to new highs. I have no idea at this particular point that we are not trend day up and we're going to go straight up. What's the next natural thing for a trader to think? Oh, I don't want to fight the trend, so that when it comes back in, I want to find a place to get long. I heard this from multiple traders. So if we go back over and we pull this up right here, cool. Well, let's see what happens. We get no rotations all the way through here. And here, I'm going to rip this all off here. There we go. I get no rotations all the way through here. I break the trend line, and then look what happens. This is, for me as a trader, this particular function right here where I can't get any down rotations, right? I cannot get a single down rotation to get profit. We come right to a key area, but because I've been getting no rotations, I'm going to either put on very small trade size or I'm going to wait, one of the two. I pointed out that this was a good location, but I had no rotations. Additionally, and I'm not going to show this because I do not share my my swing methodologies, but right at, and I'm going to say 950, which was right in, I'm trying to go in detail because this is, again, designed primarily for the people that are in the room. At 950, right in here on this particular bar, I said, I now have a 5-minute swing short indicator that is triggered. And what was I looking for there at 2068? I said I want to use any 50-60 retrace between this bar and the high of the day for an entry and a stop 1 to 2 points above, right? What is the first? So I want to cover something because this is, people glance over it all the time when I watch other people talk about trading and how easy it is. We have the signal. We have the rotation. We have the rotation in terms of the 10-point rotations up, right? What we don't have at this point is the counter trade now. So now what do we need? We need a push back up. We need people to step back in and push it higher. Of course, this bar was triggered off the fact that IMF is willing to negotiate on the billions of dollars they're owed from Greece and are apparently never, ever going to collect, right? So that kind of, IMF is willing to negotiate. It jacks it up. Everyone gets squeezed out. Auction is complete at 2070. And what do we need? I have one of two ways of treating this. I can just take the trade right as it is, but I don't want to do that. Why do I not want to take that? Well, the market's been going straight up. The biggest down rotation was on this bar right here. This down rotation is approximately 2062 to just past 2060, 2 points. I don't want to step on a landmine, and the way I'm going to protect myself from stepping on a landmine, I'm going to wait for a 50-60 retrace back from this high, and I never get it. So I'm left with 2 points. I took a stop here, but that's fine. I was trying to push the trade, no big deal. I had the proper rotation. I don't take the trade. I don't take the trade up here. Why? I'm getting no counter rotations, right? Now I want to talk about something that's really, really important here with regards to journaling. At that point when we're at 2070 and I see it rotate down here, I have a little committee in my head. That committee in my head says, dude, don't be a sucker. Don't be a coward. Just take the trade, right? That's the right thing to do. But when I look at my usual stat says on this setup, when the market's coming straight up like this, that I'm usually going to get at least an attempt at a retest back down, or the pattern that actually plays out more often is we make one more push to a new high and then exhaust and then push lower. So my response to that voice in my head isn't, and my thought process isn't, do I get this one particular trade right? I don't care about any one trade since the market is a stream of never-ending opportunities. What I go back and look at, and I go, what's normally the pattern that prevails here? And I know that I'm going to have to be willing to take a short here and tolerate taking some heat possibly behind this, and I may even have to take this trade twice. The one thing I don't want to do here is bury my account so badly in the process of making this work that even if I get the swing up here, I just need it to get me back to break even on the move back down. So I'm going to wait patiently. I'm going to try to use a 4-point stop. If I need a bigger stop, I'm going to cut size. And by the way, since this is a swing trade and it's something new that I've been doing in the room, I want everyone to be clear on swing trades. I am increasing my stops and decreasing my trade size to tolerate the risk associated and the time factor associated, right? And it's not just the risk that'll go around. My average swing trade can take 2 to 3 hours to work out. Okay, so that's a long time to sit in a trade with and be overly leveraged. So reduce leverage, get the trade size set up correctly. Okay, let me erase this real quick and we'll continue. Okay, so remember psychology, because it's a big part here. First of all, 20 points of rotation out of the gate. And let's cover that back for a second. And let's go back down here to the open. So from the open, you see 20 points of rotation. And a lot of people I know will get a lot of feedback and they'll go, dude, somehow by some miracle, you quote knew that we were going up, right? You put that in your head. We always are perfect looking backwards, right? We knew that it was going up. And so you start beating yourself up. So the one key thing that we want to always do is keep ourselves in a learning mode while we're trading. How do we do that? First of all, we have a written trade plan. Secondly, we have prescribed trade setups that we're looking for, right? And the last piece is we don't get upset. There's no shoulda, coulda, woulda. We simply are staying in a learning mode and go, how could have I perfected that? If you look at the opens over the last couple of weeks, we've had multiple times where here I can draw this out. We've gapped up and then rolled to the downside. We've gapped up, then driven higher. We've gapped up, driven higher, and then failed back to the downside. This is the first time where I've seen us gap down, drive 20 points, and then reverse for 15. But the fact of the matter is, it's very, very hard in the first 5 minutes to get a clear read. And the question isn't whether you caught it today, because the market is filled with a history of guys who caught 10 and 20 point moves, and then they give it back over the next 5 or 10 trades, trying to relive that glory move, right? The objective of a trader, according to Steenbarger, is to do one thing and one thing only: to stay consistent and avoid your boom bust cycles. One of the ways I avoid the boom bust cycles, I go through my checklist, right? Proper rotation size, proper setups. Do we have half gap or gap fill? And if it's open drive higher or open drive lower, my only objective in that situation is to sidestep it, because as a day trader, I know that's where my greatest amount of risk lies, right? And then my last piece, and my last objective is to identify, is within the case of the larger rotations in the market, are there counter rotations that will let me get risk off? Since I'm trading on a leverage basis, it is critical that I get risk off the table as quickly as possible. So let's erase this and continue to go through the day. And this is going to be a bit more extended than I normally do, but I think it's a good learning opportunity today. Okay, so I get no retrace, I get no opportunity to get short up here, and I identified it. So let me tell you, do I get flustered? No, I keep dragging my 50-60 retrace all the way down until I finally realize there's just not going to be a 50-60 retrace. Basically, I identified my swing short right here, and I never get an entry at all, right? So I have one or two things. Imagine, go through your mind as you normally would treat yourself, right? And this is a big distinction. We think differently and we act differently under pressure than we do when we're nice and calm and the market's closed, right? So when we're nice and calm in the market and I go, oh, dude, no big deal, no big deal. I've been in a situation where I have missed my trades before. I haven't gotten filled. No big deal. I'm just going to wait for the next opportunity. Let me tell you what it is in real time. The voices in my head go, dude, WTF? I should have had a piece of that. I identified the 2070, the huge extension that we had up in that area. I identified in my overnight notes that was a key area and a key area to short. My indicator gave me a swing short entry to the short side, and the market just effed me and owes me money. Okay, now that's how I feel. Now I may not say that outwardly because you sound like a crazy person, right? I'll say it here, but you wouldn't express that outwardly unless you're in a room by yourself and no one else can see you, right? But you probably sure as hell think it, or at least a lot of us think it, right? What I'm doing is I'm going, where's my next setup? And my next setup actually came much later, and I kind of already gave up on this day at this point. And the reason why I gave up on this day is because I'm not getting any counter rotations the other way, and I'm thinking, man, this really sucks. We just had 20 up, 10 down, and the problem here in all of this is we're not getting what we had on Friday, and I'm going to show you what we had on Friday so everyone can understand what I'm talking about. What we had on Friday, excuse me, Thursday. Friday was market holiday. So follow the bouncing ball with me. We open up, we push up, we push down, We push up, we push down, we counter back up. Right? Remember, if everyone will recall that's in the room, we had a short at roughly 2072. We entered that short at 20, I want to say 20, I forget where we entered, but I'm pretty sure we entered right here, right before it fell off the face of the earth, right? We had pushed down, pushed back up, pushed down to new lows, beautiful rotation back up, rotation down, rotation back up, rotation down, rotation up, finally rotation down, big rotation up, big rotation down, and then squeeze to the upside at the end of the day. That, from a day trading perspective, is extremely tradable, right? Now look at this same chart. And notice that we have none of the qualities that made Thursday so nice and so easy to trade. It meant that even if you didn't have ideal location on Thursday, that you could tolerate a little bit of heat and still get a rotation down to at least get a scale and pull your stops down. But when you're in this environment, you're not getting the rotations. The next place that I had a actual short setup was here at 2064, and then we had a small counter rotation. I want to show you this. I'm not sure whether I actually called this out in the room or not. I don't recall anymore, but I know I did get a short signal here. Right? Actually, I think I was gone at this point to lunch, so I got a short signal here. Right? And if you look, we get a 50-60 rotation. Your stop is right behind that 2065. This is what I needed to occur up at the 2070. I never got it. Clearly, it gave a big fat push down to the downside. Now, here's where my day really got sucky, and I'm really going to have to work on the journaling. I get a swing long indication. Get a swing long indication right. I want to say I got it right here, actually. Oh, you know what? It was on this bar right here. I need to go back at what time I tweeted it, but I posted it. I know I tweeted it. And I took a long at 2055. And my stop was at 2051. And so, again, what did I do to help myself out with this trade? First of all, identified location. Let's go and break it down. From 2070 all the way down to 2055. We were very poorly auctioned beneath 2055 all the way down to 2050. What do we expect normally when we get to a poorly auctioned area? We come into a poorly auctioned area, reject out of it at least the first time, right? Before maybe going halfway in, coming up, and then re-auctioning. My theory, and what pays me the majority of the time, again, was that we were on such a big stretch here to the downside. We came all the way down into this support level at 2056, 2055, and I got a swing long indication right in this area. And normally a 4-point stop will take care of me on this particular trade. And in this particular case, had I, even if I'd waited for a 50-60 retrace, it was really only a difference of 1 point. Although, given that 1 point would have saved me with a 4-point stop, right? Since I got stopped to pretty much to the tick right down here. So I'm sitting here, and so again, guys, I'm going to talk about the swing trade. The swing trade requires A, more patience, but B, has a better risk reward than the scalp trade has, right? Generally 1-to-1 and sometimes 2-to-1 risk reward, much more favorable over time, right? I've lowered trade size. I throw away the clock on the swing trades. Why? Well, look, this is where I get my first swing short indication on this bar. This is just prior to 10 a.m. This takes from 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 hour, 12, 2 hours, 1, 3 hours, till 13:30, till this entire cycle completes, to the swing low was 3.5 hours worth of time. Okay, so knowing that that's what's available, and also realizing what's our primary pattern that we're looking for through the course of the day. Open, push up, push down, swing back around, the hook back to the upside, because we rarely close on the lows. Again, this is hammered in day after day into my mind over and over again, and catching this swing to the upside is very important to my overall P&L story, right? So I'm long here, and now I'm out of control, meaning all I can control is my entry. Do I have the proper stretch? Do I have my indicator? Do I know my odds, right? And do I sit back and wait? And the answer is I sit back and wait. I don't freak out. I accept where the stop is, because according to, well, I'm going to lose his name because I am tired at this point, but it'll come to me, Mark Douglas, right? You have your entry, your exit, and your scales all pre-planned. Why do you do that? That eliminates anxiety and fear, right? You've already made the decision. You have clarity on your entry. You're committed to the trade. And now all I have to work on is my composure. I want to stay in a learning mode. So I have my journal out. I'm becoming cognizant of the feelings that I'm experiencing, the impulses that I want to have while I'm trading through that. And then if I get stopped, right, what is the one thing I don't want to do? I don't want to get stopped and then jump in and out, in and out, in and out while I'm trading. I want to stop that, because that's where a huge part of not my losses, but of any trader's losses, right? If you panic, where you get crushed, or even worse, right? What I've seen a lot of traders do is move down, take the trade, right? They stay all the way through it. They get tagged out to the tick. How do they respond when they get tagged out to the tick? They get pissed. This bar comes up, and now all of a sudden, all the way through here, they're forgetting about all their indicators. It's pushing, 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 and they try to short all the way through this, and they go, I can't believe we're pushing all the way back up for 15 points, right? But the character of the market through the course of the day stayed true. Once it started going down, kept going down. Once it turned up, kept going up. Same thing in the morning. So to summarize that, I didn't get upset when I was down here. This is actually confirmation of my thought process. My thought process told me to look for a swing to the long side. I thought I had the right location. I didn't panic when I got stopped. Went to my journal, and I know tomorrow when I get this set up, unfortunately this particular day it did not set up, but there'll be many, many, many days when it does set up for me properly. If I don't do any damage on a day like today, I can move on to the next day, and I can come in tomorrow fresh, capital in hand, right? I'm not begging for more money. I'm not panicked that my account's going to get crushed and I'm going to be in a hole that I'll never dig out of, and I can move on to the next day. That's kind of that's my 2 cents. So I'm going to close it up. I will open it up really quickly for any questions. You can actually hit me in the chat box if you want, guys. Just to say ahead of time, the one thing I will not cover is my swing trade indicator. I just don't share it. People ask for it, I don't share it. Brian, I don't understand your question. I went long down here at 2055. I got stopped out to the tick. I could. It's a challenge for me. I keep late in the day. It's harder in the last hour to take the same trade twice. Early in the day, it's not. Mostly, I'm concerned about slipping into a mode where I'm taking stop after stop. But there are times when I would do it. His question was, would I take the trade? Would I take the long the second time? And yeah, normally I would. Anyone else? Now's the time, guys. I usually don't spend this much time on trade review. Absolutely, Brian. On to the next trade. So in my book, I wrote in the journal, this day sucked. It did. I did not like identifying key locations, not getting 10 and 15 point rotations lower. I did not like finding location near the bottom third of the range for the intraday and getting stopped. That really sucked. Not writing a book. But I didn't throw or break anything today. I took a long lunch. And that's okay. I know that the market will open again tomorrow. Okay, guys, kind of wrapping it up. This is the end of the. I don't have much else to say. I've already posted the charts for at least the upper zones on ES for tomorrow. I have no idea what to expect overnight. I do know that 2070 to 2075 is critical, that we get above there if we're going to re-examine any of the areas above, but that's the bottom of the old trading range. And I know that also that below that 2033, if we look at the volume profile from right, so here's the overnight. Right. There's that 2033. It's followed by 2028, and then 2024 to 2022. Those are all key areas for holding. Realistically, what's our possible range for tomorrow? Well, intraday we had a 20-point range, and that's usually a pretty good measure. I don't think REITs can default twice in 2 days, but I mean, damn, they've done everything else. But if we follow that idea, on the bottom end of the range, 2044, retesting the retesting last week's lows is certainly a possibility. If we get below last week's lows, I'd be very concerned. And even in these areas, I'd want big stretches, right? But if you look from 2044, another 30 down would put us into this 2032 area, and I would expect responsive buyers from 2032 to 2028 back to the upside. With the caveat is that's if we don't gap down into that area. But as long as we hold above this area, remember, guys, that for the most part, in order to get a move to the downside, we will tend to gap out of an area of balance. We are building energy. This whole thing is building energy here. So if we gap above or we gap below, we're building energy for that. So I assume when we move out of this range, it'll be accompanied by a gap, but it doesn't have to be. I am. Can y'all not see this right now, guys? Has it gone dark? Ah, really? So the chart has frozen up. Okay. Well, so sorry. Here, let me see if I lock this. And then let's see. Try this one more time. Screen. How about now? Can you see this, Brian? Okay. So what I was pointing out is, so right now our trading range is essentially 2076 to 2045. This is the overnight low down here at 2033. I would be concerned if we get below last week's swing low here, right? It would raise concern, but we closed at 2064. We had a 20-point intraday range. Normally, I would say this area that we are in balance here and building energy for a larger move. We can stay in balance for a long time. There's no prescription for it, but now that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in balance. So I would look for a move out of balance. The problem is that balance range is really, really wide. It's 30 points wide. So we'll see if that narrows up a little bit, and after it narrows up for a couple of days, then we could see an expansion to the upside or to the downside. Even if we stretched all the way down to below 2044 and we traded out intraday, it is very likely, right? Let's say we, tomorrow morning, for grins, right, we gap down to 2050 and we were to trade out, we would come to this 2032, it's very likely that we would close right back into this 2044. Now, if we gap below here and then we drive, that's one scenario where we could move lower. Since we've had a 40-point 24-hour range, we could certainly come down into this 2024. I am looking to be a responsive buyer in all this area if we get down first time in, right? Just the same as if we push up into this 2069 to 2076 area, Or if we look above into this into this 2095 open gap, I imagine that would be the next place where on the upside we'd have a great opportunity to have some responsive sellers step back in and give us a push to the downside. Anyways, guys, that's all I have for tonight. I don't see any other questions, so I'm going to wrap it up. I hope everyone had a good day. I'm personally glad to just have survived this day without any kind of major damage. I came close to having some really nice trades and just missed by a hair. So it's good to have been able to identify the proper locations, at least, even if I couldn't get the trade on. One last piece. Wanted to say if anyone would like a free 2-week trial to the room, please email me at tradeandperform@gmail.com. Pretty sure for $95 a month, it's the best deal going out there to have live market commentary while the market's open and a live market preview every day and accurate ES support resistance zones to work off of. Okay, guys, have a great night. I enjoyed having y'all and looking forward to doing it all over again tomorrow. I'm out of here. Have a good night.